Hey everybody, Dork the Mighty here, and I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for a while now. You ever just been playing a game and then died and thought to yourself, video games are some of the only medium of entertainment where if there's a problem, you're the only one who's gonna be able to fix it. Whether that problem be, uh-oh, gotta save the princess, or oh no, this monster's fucking up my space stuff, and I'm getting ready to be turned into a clip for vor fetishists. That was an awfully specific example, but I think you get what I mean. When getting ready to solve a problem, you'll undoubtedly be faced with obstacles, and some of the obstacles can range from the reasonable and predictable to the weirdest shit and fucking annoying. What I've been wondering is that, for years, we've been working on video games like they're the cure for cancer. They aren't, by the way. But how much have they changed? And more specifically, how has the way that they approach difficulty changed? Well, in order to answer that question, I'll have to use my trusty time machine to travel back to 1990, when a quaint game called The Immortal, designed by Will Harvey, was released for the Genesis. This game got tons of praise for its graphics and gameplay by a ton of different magazines, getting crowning 4 out of 5-star reviews on average. And those bitches weren't wrong. This game is fucking awesome. Sexy spells, magic carpets, sea monsters, dancing, some super sexy death animations, and bait! And the most important thing, it's fucking impossible! This game will beat the shit out of you for hours and hours for no goddamn reason. Here are some of the bizarre ways where you can die. Death by spear trap, death by fire trap, orcs, getting stepped on, drowning, needle traps, slimes, giant worms, death by mushrooms, and even going down the wrong side of the ladder hatch. Which, by the way, what? Just fucking death, 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 death! Also, I'd just like to point out, the dragon, he's just kind of sitting in the back here, like fucking... hello. God, this is only the second screen in the game, and it's already trying to get inside my head. Do I want to pick up this amulet? I don't know. Can I use this bait here? I don't know. Can I look through these bones for more treasure? No. You die. Also, did I mention, when you die, you go straight back to the fun beginning. Now this was pretty common with older games. When you fuck up and end up dead, you gotta do it all over again. But when games are this fucking punishing, it makes it pretty goddamn hard for me to see any of the other cool shit you have when I'm stuck analyzing this one room over and over and over again. The Immortal is the kind of punishing hard where when you die, you're supposed to learn from your fuck-ups. Most of them, though, won't really be your fault. How the fuck was I supposed to know I couldn't climb back up the ladder to escape the sea monster guy? Now this is hard, right? But not the kind of hard that we'd normally be accustomed to. The difficulty we've become used to is the kind of hard that is usually fair and will at least try to let you know before you make a dipshit mistake. Hard games kind of fell out of the commercial interest in the early 2000s when gaming hit the mainstream, and developers kind of assumed that the video game masses are all dumb and don't know how the world works. They assume that we don't know anything about the Illuminati, or that everybody's personality is entirely based off of what animal is associated with their birthday. Silly developers. Then, in the darkness, in a sea of horribly easy games, a king sat atop his throne. And then, on the darkest day of them all, Nintendo releases Super Mario Galaxy, the fucking easiest game in the world. Listen, there's being a fun family game, and then there's thinking that the player is a goddamn idiot. Oh fuck, how am I supposed to fight this star dude? How am I to defeat such an enemy? An unstoppable force such as this? Oh fuck, this gobblegut dude is gonna fuck me up. How do I stop this creature? A celestial being with the powers from the gods! Damn it, give us a sign! This game was a wake-up call for a few people. Since gaming had been in the mainstream for a while, people had finally come into their own who weren't initially accustomed to hard games. This game and a few others had to be the final nail in the coffin of, good lord, if this is too fucking easy, if I don't play something hard right now, a rifle barrel is going to figure out what my uvula looks like. But then, on the night of September 22nd, 2012, we thought we'd be consumed by easiness. A savior came to this world. From Software releases Dark Souls! And holy shit! This game is fucking awesome! Hacking and slashing your way through boys that can end your goddamn life with one careless move. This is the difficulty that we missed for so long! But was it? This was another one of those games that ruthlessly punished you for making mistakes that you were bound to make. But just like The Immortal, there are people who could run through this game without taking a single point of damage. So how can it possibly be hard? Well, in a ton of ways. Remember Snake Fortress? Remember this fucking place where you can't see anything? Remember how if the rats bit you, you constantly lose health until you die? Remember that great feature where your sword would just bounce off the fucking wall every time you try to attack something? Super duper. This game scared off a lot of people from hard games for a while, and then people didn't play Dark Souls 2 for a long time. But then, wham! Holy fuck, this game's awesome! You thought fucking Bloodborne was awesome? You thought fucking Dark Souls 1 was awesome? This is the fucking best! It's also home to my favorite boss fight, who I was stuck on for 6 months. Got him. Dark Souls 3 actually managed to fix some of the glaring issues that the first one had and made the game way more easily playable to newer players, but still managed to keep that punishing difficulty. Dark Souls 3 had that kind of hard that we were finally looking for, but at the same time, difficulty isn't perfect. Difficulty is one of those aspects of games that varies from people's preference. Luckily, there are tons of kinds of difficulty for everybody. For example, The Legend of Zelda is a game that has a few different kinds of difficulty. Now, before you think that this is a hit piece on Ocarina of Time, which it totally is, it didn't always used to be the way it is now. You used to just kind of slap some fella with your sword and then run away, and to do that, you had to perform this complicated skill of facing the right direction, which I still occasionally manage to fuck up. In Ocarina of Time, though, they changed combat and the whole world once they jumped to 3D, which made the combat centered around focusing on one enemy. Now, this would normally be awesome, but the issue is the way they approached making enemies difficult to fight. How do you think you fight this fucking clan? Just guess. Guess how. You gotta wait for this fool to open up his dipshit mouth so you can actually fucking land any damage on him. This is the difficulty in 3D Zelda games. It seems to kinda just be sitting around and waiting for the enemies to actually do something so you can deal damage. That's not hard. We're just bored of waiting, so we just do something to keep the game moving. See that right there? That's bad difficulty. Also, there's a big difference between being difficult by design and being difficult on accident. Crash Bandicoot, I think, really sums up that point in that the game would normally be easy, but half the time, the game just doesn't do what you want it to do. So while the game is kinda hard to do, since the game doesn't really function as well as it could, I wouldn't consider it a difficult game by design because it wasn't really intended to handle like this. Another great example of this, Shadow of the Colossus. This game is super damn cool, with you, a mere foolish mortal fella, taking on these giant rock and fur Goliaths, which would be amazing if the controls didn't handle like complete dog shit. And I'm not hating. Shadow of the Colossus is a contender for my favorite game ever, but when half of the difficulty of the game is making the character do what you want him to do, and then worrying about the AI of the Colossus to actually go where you fucking want it to go, you kinda got a recipe for a disaster on your hands. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, what about multiplayer games? Those can be hard, but those are more based on skill than innate difficulty. Innate difficulty, in my personal opinion, is better just because when a game has a set difficulty, it gives you a lot more legitimacy to your skill, since it's how the game designers intended the game to be played. When games give you the option of choosing the difficulty, it can kind of take away that sense of accomplishment, since you have to almost manipulate the game to succeed, and you end up finding out that the way that actually works to beat the game just kind of sucks the fun right out of it. So how have games evolved when it comes to difficulty? Well, it comes as simple as this. Games way back in the day had little experience in knowing what a new player finds fair. Some newer games could still be found to be pretty unfair, but they also rely on your ability to adapt and overcome to an obstacle. Like Dark Souls or Cuphead, those games rely on your ability to adapt your playstyle with what you're faced with. Games now are much more in tune with what a player will deal with, since back in the day, we were stuck with Takeshi's Challenge and the Immortal, that don't give a shit if you don't know what you're doing. Video games are great for solving problems and adapting to your situations, but they're also adapting themselves to us. After all, it was only like 30 years ago that most of the games that we played were just text-based. So who knows what kind of bullshit we'll be faced with in the next 30 years from now. Thanks for watching, everybody! Want to tell me how wrong I am? Let me know in the comments. Want to see more videos as they come out? Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.